Over the last week or so on Twitter, I've been seeing this debate going on about who would win between the 2017 Golden State Warriors and the 2024 Boston Celtics. And I felt like I can give a unbiased perspective as a guy who hate watch both teams into this interesting debate and stick around to the end about who I think would win between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. But before we get into that, let's give a brief history lesson about the KD Warriors and the defending champions Boston Celtics. Let's take it back to the 2016 offseason, and the Golden State Warriors have just broke the NBA record for most wins in a singular season, ending the season with 73 wins and 9 losses. After winning the championship previous year, the Warriors were the favorites to win it yet again, but as we know now, they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who came back down 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors. So, they had to call in reinforcements. Now, the Super Team Warriors have been assembled, and if you didn't hate them before, you definitely hate them now. Kevin Durant left who we thought was his close friend in Russell Westbrook back in OKC after they choked their own 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals to the Golden State Warriors. It was the ultimate betrayal going into 2016-2017 season where they were the villains and the overwhelming favorites to win it all. Let's put it into perspective on how great this team was. Starting at the point guard position, the back-to-back MVP of the league, the first ever unanimous MVP, the greatest shooter of all time, the baby-faced assassin, Stephen Wardell Curry. And at the shooting guard position, we have one of the greatest shooters of all time, a 6'6" sniper, one of the best wing defenders in the league, Klay Thompson. In the small forward position, a 7-footer who's able to pull from anywhere on the court and have the dribbling ability of a guard, who was an MVP of this league, a multiple-time scoring champ, one of the greatest scorers of all time. We have the snake himself,
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am.
And at the power forward position, he won Defensive Player of the Year this year. One of the greatest versatile defenders of all time. The most energetic person on the court at all times. And a multiple-time MMA champion, Draymond Green. That was just the 4 All-Stars they had that year. And as I mentioned, Draymond won Defensive Player of the Year too. And they had 3 20 points per game scorers, which should put into perspective in that season, there were only 33 20-plus point per game scorers.
But wait, there's more. Hang on to your seat, baby, cause this one's a screamer!
They also had key role players such as Sean Livingston. For those of you who don't know about Sean Livingston, it felt as if he couldn't miss a mid-range jumper. And him being a 6'7" guard, being able to shoot over the top of defenders made it almost impossible to guard. And Andre Iguodala was a big part of their death lineup and coming off the bench, and mostly getting those starting minutes and finishing in 2nd and 6th man of the year, was also an elite defender and a good respected shooter, and just came off winning Finals MVP back in 2015, and while still being an average slasher and having big bodies like Zaza Pachulia, to this day I'll always hate, and have JaVale McGee. Both just did a set screens and clog out the paint on defense and help catch lobs around the rim. And to round out their bench, David West being that stretch big just to add insult to injury. That season, they finished with a 67-15 record, #1 in offensive rating, #2 in defensive rating. The main thing that made this team great was the fact that there wasn't a real way to guard them. You couldn't double Stephen Curry, because if you double Steph, there's 2 all-time great shooters on the team, and vice versa if you double Kevin Durant. And Draymond at the time was a respected 3-point shooter, but also being a great passer and playmaker, along with Curry and Klay's off-ball movement, felt like it was impossible to guard them. With their death lineup of Curry, Klay, KD, Iguodala, and Draymond, they held teams to 103 points, which would put them at #1 in defensive rating that year. And scoring-wise, they would put up 126 points, would be 11 points more than first that year, which was the Golden State Warriors with 115. In the first round in the playoffs that year, they match up against the Portland Trail Blazers, led by Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, in which they handled easily in 4 games. Then heading into the semifinals, matching up against the Utah Jazz, led by rookie Donovan Mitchell and Gordon Hayward, in which they also handled in 4 games. And now comes the real challenge for the Golden State Warriors, being the San Antonio Spurs, in which that year won 61 games and being an overall great team led by Kawhi Leonard. And in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, it felt like the Golden State Warriors had finally met their match, with the Spurs taking a 25-point lead in Golden State until the infamous Zaza Pachulia moment happened. That led to Kawhi Leonard missing the rest of the series, and the Warriors ended up coming back into that game and winning it, and closing out the series in 4 games. Going into the NBA Finals this year, the Warriors are now 12-0 and have dismantled every team in their path. And now matching up with their rivals, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who they lost to on Christmas Day Embiid later on in the season, making their season record being 1-1, made it feel like an instant classic finals waiting to happen. After Cavs winning in 2016 and the Warriors winning in 2015, it's time to see if adding Kevin Durant would be enough to beat a LeBron and Kyrie-led Cavs. And well, as you all know today, it was more than just enough, with the first 2 games of the series being 20-point blowouts, now heading into a Game 3 which is a must-win for the Cavs. In their home, the close game with a minute left, Kevin Durant happened.
Can't get it to fall. Rebound Durant. Incredible opportunity. Durant for 3. It's good. Kevin Durant from downtown and goal.
That shot alone showed that Kevin Durant was the difference maker in the series, closing all remaining hope the Cavs had left, and the Warriors ended up closing out this series 4-1, ending their legendary playoff run with a record of 16-1. The 2024 Boston Celtics are a modern-day super team, in which was being sculpted for years and finally taking its final form in the 2023 offseason. The 2024 Celtics wouldn't have been possible without the help of the Brooklyn Nets back in 2013 in a trade to send Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to Brooklyn for 3 first-round picks and Jared Wallace, but we're mainly focusing on the picks. Those picks ended up being Jaylen Brown back in 2016 and Jason Tatum back in 2017. From many failed playoff runs from 2017 all the way up to 2021, the Celtics finally had enough, made a trade in the 2022 trade deadline, acquiring Derek White from the San Antonio Spurs, trading away Josh Richardson and Romeo Langford, and a first-round pick. Derek White ended up being a key role player in the 2022 NBA Finals run for the Celtics, which they did end up losing to the Golden State Warriors in 6 games. They essentially ran it back the very next year in 2023 and losing in 7 games to the Miami Heat, almost completing a 3-0 comeback. Going into the offseason, Boston knew they needed to make a change, and trading away Marcus Smart for Kristaps Porzingis was that move. Even with Marcus Smart being the heart and soul of that team from 2014 all the way up to 2023, it was time for some change. And moving Smart allowed Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to finally grow as a duo together, and with the Bucks trading for Damian Lillard and shipping Jrue Holiday out to the Blazers, made him a prime focus for the Boston Celtics to try to trade for, in which they succeeded, trading away Robert Williams and their 6th Man of the Year Malcolm Brogdon that year to acquire Jrue Holiday. And going into the 2023-2024 season, Boston were the favorites to come out of the East, but they were not the favorites to win the NBA championship. That would have to go to Denver Nuggets, who had won it the previous year. But the Boston Celtics still had a dominant starting 5, with having a 6'5" point guard who was able to guard the 1 through 4 and still be the best guard defender in the league and shoot 40% from 3 in Jrue Holiday, and having a shooting guard who is the best role player in the league, and there isn't anything he can't do on the court, while being debatably the 2nd best guard defender in the league in Derek White. Then their all-star small forward in Jaylen Brown, who is also a really great defender at his position, a great shot creator, able to score on all 3 levels, and their power forward position being their star player in Jason Tatum, the 6'8" sidestep demon, with the shot creating abilities of some of the best players in the league and being that superstar caliber player they needed, but still having the ability to be a great defender. And don't forget about their 7'3" unicorn they have at center, who is able to shoot over defenders, score in the post, block shots, grab rebounds at an elite rate, being Kristaps Porzingis, and also having the likes of Payne Pritchard off the bench, which one of the best spark plugs in the league. If you want to put the ball in the basket, especially comes to late in quarters, he's able to hit those half-court heaves, those deep 3-pointers when needed. Also having the 6'11" stretch center coming off their bench, and Al Horford still being a great role player for his age, the Celtics was a dangerous team from top to bottom. They finished with a record of 64-18, having the best record not only in the East, but the best record in the whole league. Also finishing number 1 in offensive rating and number 3 in defensive rating. The Celtics became that team to beat, with the offensive strategy being to shoot as much threes as possible, being focused on driving kicks and a swing shot offense, led to them having the best offense in the league and having a scoring average of 123 points per game. But that also comes with its downsides, and that downside being when that shot is not falling, the Celtics are a beatable team, because their main thing they focus on is that 3-point shot. Unfortunately for other teams, that wasn't the case for most games, having 8 players shooting around 40% from 3, and their defensive strategy being heavily switch oriented, having their 1 through 4 being able to switch onto guards and forwards and bigs. It made it a nightmare for offenses on most nights, holding teams to 111 points per game. Going into the playoffs as a 1 seed to play against the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler should have been an easy series, which it was. Even though they did end up losing game 2, the Celtics then proceeded to give them belt to ass for the remainder games of the series, beating them by an average margin of 23 points. Unfortunately, Porzingis did get hurt in that series and wouldn't make his return until Game 1 of the NBA Finals. And going into the second round against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which would end up falling into the same fate as the Miami Heat, even though Jared Allen was out for the whole series and Donovan Mitchell did miss the last 2 games of that series, the Celtics closed them out in 5 games without a problem. Now moving on to the conference finals to play against the red-hot Indiana Pacers, who have been one of the most entertaining stories in the league that year with the eruption of Tyrese Halliburton. Although Halliburton did miss the last 2 games of the series, all 4 games were close games, with the average margin of victory for the Celtics being 7. The Celtics still came out with a sweep to punch their card to the NBA Finals. With Jaylen Brown winning Eastern Conference MVP over Jason Tatum, the stage was set for the NBA Finals to match up against the Dallas Mavericks led by Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Even though the Mavericks have been red hot throughout the playoffs, it did not matter to the Celtics having suffocating defense. It was just too much for the Mavericks to handle, and the Celtics took a 2-0 lead going into Game 3. And in Game 3, with the Dallas Mavericks being down 3 points with 4 minutes to go, Luka decides to pull off one of the most brain-dead fouls I have seen in my life, which leads to Luka getting fouled out and losing Game 3. Game 4, they did end up winning, but the Celtics ended up closing the series out in 5 games in Boston, with Jaylen Brown winning Finals MVP and ending their playoff run with a record of 16-3. And now it is time to see who would win between the 2017 Golden State Warriors and the 2024 defending champions Boston Celtics. And with Game 1 underway, with all the expectation and hype around this series, the Boston Celtics came out swinging, taking a 17-point lead with 2 minutes left in the game. Even with Curry trying to will his team back into the game, it has not been very successful, with Boston still outlasting them and outshooting them throughout the game. And Stephen Curry in Game 1 had 26 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists, with Kevin Durant right beside him, putting up 17, 11, and 5. And Klay Thompson with 25 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. On the Boston side of things, Jason Tatum came to play, scoring 38 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists. And Kristaps Porzingis with 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 blocks. And the third leading scorer being Payton Pritchard with 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists, and the final score of this game being 121-108. And now in Game 2, Golden State Warriors need to respond after getting their backs blown out in Game 1. And they did exactly that, taking a commanding 23-point lead with 3 minutes left in the game. Golden State Warriors and Stephen Curry put on a shooting clinic in this game. Even with Payton Pritchard and Jason Tatum trying their hardest to keep the game close, it didn't matter at the end, with Stephen Curry putting up 43 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists. Klay Thompson the back end of things with 35 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. And surprisingly, their third leading scorer being Andre Iguodala with 18 points and 3 rebounds and 5 assists. Celtics Jaylen Brown was the only person who came to play with 29 points and 4 rebounds. Jrue Holiday was the second leading scorer with 19, and their superstar Jason Tatum sat the bed with only 15 points. Game 3, the series deciding game, will the Boston Celtics take a 2-1 lead, and no, they did not. Unfortunately, the Boston Celtics weren't prepared for Golden State's onslaught, being up 16 with 2.5 minutes to go. The Celtics yet again fall to Golden State, down 2-1. Jaylen Brown tried willing his team with 25 points, Jason Tatum right behind him with also 25 points, and Payton Pritchard also tried showing up with 20, but it wasn't enough for the Golden State's big three of Kevin Durant with 33, 5, and 7, Stephen Curry with 32, 2, and 15, and Klay Thompson with 24 points. Their big three put up 89 points alone in a 123-109 win, going back to Boston for Game 4. Game 4 is where it all matters for Boston. If they go down 3-1 going back to Oakland, the series is over and they never stood a chance to begin with. Because in Game 4, it was more of the same old Golden State being up 16 points with 2 minutes left. Complete and utter dominating the Celtics all game, with Jason Tatum putting up 25, 10, and 7, trying to put up that triple-double to give the Celtics the edge. It was not enough, with KP putting up 16 and 11 and a double-double, and their third leading scorer being their second best player, Jaylen Brown, who, when the lights were at its brightest, he crumbled. Jaylen Brown put up 14 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 6 of 17 from the field. But Golden State yet again proved why they are the better team, with Curry putting up another double-double with 27 and 15, and Kevin Durant having 23, 7, and 3, and JaVale McGee surprisingly being the third leading scorer with 16 and 11 with a 109-90 victory. Game 5 in Golden State, everyone has written the Boston Celtics out, and will they prove all the critics and media wrong. And up until the fourth quarter with a minute and 50 left, being down only 4 points, trying to force a Game 7 to go back to Boston, and when the Warriors needed the bucket the most, they didn't give the ball to Curry. They gave the ball to Draymond Green, who takes the ball in the post and scores easily onto Derek White. And now the Warriors with the ball again. The Celtics focused too heavily onto Klay Thompson, leaving Draymond open for another cut. Put the Warriors up by 8 with 30 seconds left, and when the Warriors needed a play to secure the win, they went to their big three, Curry to KD to Klay Thompson for a wide open 3 to put them up 11 with 30 seconds to go and to ultimately seal the Boston Celtics' fate. And in this Game 5, Stephen Curry putting up 39, 7, and 11, with KD putting up 22, 5, and 8, Klay Thompson 21, 5, and 4. The Warriors' big 3 showed up. On Boston's side of things, we can't say the same, because Jaylen Brown had 31, 3, and 5. Jrue Holiday had 21, 4, and 4. Derek White had 18 and 10. You guys notice whose name I didn't mention? Jason Tatum. But when the game mattered the most, he did not show up. He putting up 14, 8, and 6 in an elimination game, shooting 5 of 17 from the field. The final score being 115 to 126. The Golden State Warriors are your champs in this hypothetical 7-game series, with Stephen Curry winning Finals MVP, averaging 33, 6, and 12, shooting 46% from 3. And that's it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe for more, and let me know what teams you guys want me to do this with next. And as always, go hard on them dudes. Salute.